Namaste. So we read today prayer which speaks about the continuity between the individual and the collective life. Though we all regard ourselves as separate beings, but this is one of those illusions that one gets rid of when we take to the path of yoga. One of the first illusions. We are a continuum. Just like you can look at material objects as waveforms, or we can look them as particles. When you look at it particles, the behavior is like particles. It's very interesting that when you impact particles through a hole, then they behave as if they are particles. They will either pass through or fall on the sheet. But if you treat them as waves, they just pass through. It's very interesting because same thing with human beings. We can look at ourselves as very isolated, but in reality, simultaneously, we are also continuous with the entire universe. In fact, all the time we are releasing atoms, breath, very tangible breath. So it's not just a breath, it's a part of a consciousness. Apart from the radiation which goes around, which occultists see as aura, etc. So all the time we are releasing energies and transmitting and releasing energies. So this truth we need to know. Because of this interconnectedness, life becomes a little more complicated than we think it to be. Now there is a solution to this complicatedness, but right now, how exactly we must understand it. December 2nd, 1912, so long as one element of the being, one movement of the thought is still subjected to outside influences, not solely under thee, not solely under thine, it cannot be said that the true union is realized. So in Mother and Sri Aurobindo's yoga, because nature has to be transformed, the union is not just of the soul with the divine, but also of nature. Now, soul with the divine is an old yoga. But when it comes to nature, everything in this life, we can start looking at it whether it is given to the ego or given to the divine. Given to the ego, given to the divine. Given to the lower nature or given to the higher supernature. That's how one can look at the entire movement. And everything that is not given to the divine is not just one element. It is a world, meaning thereby the entire cosmic forces are standing behind and pressing upon this part. That is how these forces act. And they will press again and again and again, till one day we finally say, Lord, take it. It's yours. Or we succumb to it, which is not a good thing. So we just keep on offering. Because each of these parts is a universe in itself. Each thought, each tendency, each attitude, each element, each feeling is a universe in its own right. There is still the horrible mixture without order and light. Why? Because there is this one little element. One drop of poison somewhere which is mixed up. And if we touch it, then it tends to spread into the system. So in us, there are a number of little these spots, the dark spots, which invite the darkness. That's why people sometimes wonder what happened to this person, that person. He was moving on the path, yes, but on the path of transformation of nature, every element has to be converted. Of course, there is the grace which takes care. We are always under the larger umbrella of the grace and the divine love. But one must understand the problem. Any little thought, suggestion we allow, and behind it there is a whole universe. It's not a little suggestion. That's why, have you seen sometime that people know that, I must get rid of fear, but allow it and see it keeps coming and coming and coming. Or there is a whirlpool of thoughts which go on in the mind, generating anxiety and anxiety and anxiety. And you want it to stop, but it doesn't, because it's supported by a whole movement. It's a universal motion which supports that individual motion. So there are many worlds beyond worlds. Each is world of a certain kind of movement in nature. If you enter that world, then you'll find only that movement. But in man, there is a khichdi. All these things are there. And that's how, when people die, sometimes one such movement is released in the atmosphere and continues to roam around there. That's what is called as ghost. Poor fellow. Still seeking release. Say there is a movement of extreme tendency to, sentimentality. Now, the moment you touch that point, there is a whole world connected with that. A dark world which brings in depression, which brings in sentimentality is an acute egoism, no? So it's thought turned upon oneself, feeling turned upon oneself. But it's there in human nature. So it opens to a whole world. And if somebody in an extremely sentimental state dies, then what happens? You have all these old movies made on that. So you have, a lady going with a candle and, she is moving and sentimental song, weeping, Naina barse, rimjim, rimjim. Piya to hai avan ki raat. So while we are living, we should work upon these parts. If we don't, then we are not, when we go out of this world, should not just be Ju ki tu dhardini chadariya. Ye to purana yoga hai. We should say that the chadariya that I got was mali. But Bhagwan ki touch se, super rain ke chamatkar se, it has become golden chadariya and I have released it in the atmosphere for the substance of matter itself to be redeemed. That's something which Mother contemplates to whatever degree. But this should be our attitude and approach. The last gift, act of love toward the world and God should be when we leave the body. Even that should be an act of love and a gift. Not like I leave my burden for somebody else to wash my linen. For that element, that movement is a world. Each of these little elements. A world of disorder and darkness. As is the entire earth in the material world. As is the material world in the entire universe. So she gives the example of the earth. What is earth? A little crystallization and condensation of the material universe. Or the material world. And what is that? Of the vast material universe. It's a little crystallization. But in the earth, all other forces of all domains have found entrance. And that is why we should be conscious. It's about living consciously and offering. They are there, but they have to be constantly referred and converted and transformed. It's a long labor. A lot of patience is required. But then what is the point of doing something which is finished in 1 week? That's why, life is so beautiful. When you have a labor, long-term project. So sometimes people say, oh, again, ek life aur aana padega, ek life. So take it like, for the next 3 lives, we are on a wonderful divine project. Hired, but never fired. Or shall we take it, hired means fired. Fired by the divine love, divine flame. And wonderful project. And she will do it. It's not that we have to do something. But they will be exposed to light. They will feel troubled. Because when you show light to a creature who loves to sleep, they are troubled. They don't like it. They want to run away. But you have to catch it, as she says. They will hide in the dusk. So they will vanish. You will feel, oh, gone, gone, gone. But the moment darkness comes, it will again spring up. So Mother says you have to do this surgery constantly. Pick it out with a pincer. And a little ambition, there is a whole world of ambition. Desire, there is a whole world of desire. Sentimentality, whole world of sentimentality. Material world, matter linked to all the matter in the universe. And it is defeatist. That's why Mother took so much time. Said matter by nature is defeatist. It has been molded like that. It doesn't believe in grace. So one has to accept the difficulty and the challenge, understand what it means. And of course the process is the same, constant offering to the grace. December 2nd, 1912. So long as one element of the being, one movement of the thought is still subjected to outside influences, not solely under thine, it cannot be said that the true union is realized. There is still the horrible mixture without order and light. For that element, that movement is a world of disorder and darkness, as is the entire earth in the material world, as is the material world in the entire universe. It also shows us the formidable work that Mother and Sri Aurobindo have undertaken. Because they have undertaken it for all creation, for all of us. But if few handful of people can open to this, then because it is interconnected, that is the way this yoga operates. Each of us converts one little tendency. The mother says, win your little victory, it will have repercussion on the whole world. One tendency, we win it. We are not called upon to do big things. Because in one person the victory has been established, it goes into the whole world. And that is why it keeps coming again and again and again, because of the representative nature of those who take up this yoga. The mother says that the sadhaka of this yoga will find, Sri Aurobindo says, that even after he has won it within himself, it continues to come again and again, because he is a representative and he has to win it as a representative into the whole, for the whole world. That's why you see Ashwapati in Book 1, Canto 5, suddenly renounces the realization that is coming into him, undertakes the journey again from the plinth of matter, base of matter, right to the top, but now carrying all these elements within himself. So each of us are a representative, which means two things. One, our difficulties are 10 times more, but also another thing, every time a little element is converted, it has repercussions on the whole world and acts upon the whole world. It's not only confined to us, but it naturally spreads into the whole world. Namaste.